Hello, hello, and welcome to Purposeful Woman podcast. And today we have Liz Wilcox. And Liz Wilcox is an email marketer on a freaking mission to help more business package up their magic and sell through email. She is also walking 90s pop culture encyclopedia. Hello and welcome, Liz.
Hey, Victoria, how's it going? Thank you so much. I'm really excited about this.
Hey, well, thank you for coming on. And as always, I would love to hear your story, how you started, where you started. And I love that 90s pop culture encyclopedia. So you'll definitely guide us through some 90s.
Yeah, so I started out a little differently than most email marketers or most digital marketers in general. I think a lot of marketers, they start off as service providers, right? You start off as a copywriter or some kind of funnel builder or, designer or something like that. I started out as a blogger, an RV blogger, depending on where you are at in the world, maybe you call it a caravan, but basically, I lived in a house on wheels and I bought the house or I bought the RV and I realized, holy crap, this thing has wheels. I want to get going. How am I going to do that? I didn't have a source of remote income. So, I start Googling. Everybody and their mother on Google will tell you, start a blog. You can be a millionaire with a blog type of thing, right? That's the dream. And so I said, well, if I see all these, quote unquote kids doing it, I can do it too. So I started my RV blog and I knew it wasn't, a lot of people will start a blog, especially a travel blog, kind of as a diary, right? They want to, you know, especially in the travel space, it's like, look, mom, I'm still alive. Everything's fine. I'm not starving. But I didn't do that. I started out as a business. I knew I wanted this to be my income driver. I wanted this to, fill up the gas tank, pay for the campgrounds, pay for food. I knew it was going to be a business. And so, I started listening to podcasts like this one. I started to watch webinars and everybody, all the quote unquote gurus out there, they're telling you, the money is in your email list. Or, the biggest mistake they made was to not start an email list soon enough or to not take it seriously right off the bat, right? It was kind of an afterthought. And so I said, well, Mama didn't raise no fool. I'm going to start this email list. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build this email list. I'm going to build these relationships. If you can't tell just by listening to me or watching me right now, I have that dynamic personality. So I was just going to go for it. So I started building the list about 6 or 7 months in. I asked my people, like, hey, why do you follow me? They said, you're funny and you can tell a good story. So my very first product was a book of funny stories and it sold like hotcakes. I had an email list of only about 300 people. It converted at 10%. It got picked up by an international sponsor. They gave me money for every new lead that was brought in with this book. And in the first 3 months, I ended up making, I think, something like $7,000. And just from there, I started moving more and more towards more digital products, really building my email list. And I eventually created my first online course after a few years of building this email list. I had 141 people on the wait list, right? So I asked them, hey, are you interested in this kind of resource? I had 141 people click. About 100 days later, I launched the course. At the end of cart close, on cart close day, I made 141 sales. So that's absolutely freaking crazy. And I started telling my story and people, oh my gosh, Liz, how did you do that? That's crazy. And I said, well, I email my people. I know what they want. I know what I'm doing. And I sold that RV blog to go in on the email marketing. Cause like Victoria said, like, I really am on a freaking mission. I hate when people say things like, oh, I built this course and it took me 6 months and I made exactly zero sales and I'm ready to give up. Like, that is a tragedy. I don't want that for people. So I sold that business and now here I am teaching people about email marketing, how I did it and how you can too.
That is so awesome. I love it. I love it that, you just did it and you went for it. Like you were committed. What I'm hearing is like you were committed to it. When you say some people are just like, "Oh, I did then spend so much and then I'm not satisfied with the results." But like, are you committed or are you just expecting something that you're not getting? And That's what caused frustration, and we all want to leave the online business after that. Super cool. So, how did you like? What was about the RV? Why did you travel that year? How did you decide to go and travel?
Yeah, so it was just, I was married at the time and we bought an RV honestly just to save money. And then, like I said earlier, I started Googling and I was like, wow, people live in these things, they travel. And that to me just sounded so, I don't know, like exotic or free, right? And so I said, I'm starting a blog. I'm going to make money. We're going to do it. And eventually we hit the road and I lived in my RV for 4 years. But eventually my business started growing. I knew I didn't want to talk about RVing forever. And so I sold that. And as the email marketing business grew, I knew I needed to get back into a house. My daughter turned 6. I wanted to put her in school. And so we settled down and now I live in an awesome like beach house right on the beach here in Florida.
Oh, so nice. Awesome. Well, so what would you say, what was like your number one mistake? It's not even that we make mistakes, but like something that you wish you could have done differently.
I wish I would have sold my RV business earlier. I think especially a lot of women, we think, oh, we need X, Y, and Z before we go ahead. I knew I didn't want to talk about RVing forever. It was just a way of getting my feet wet, so to speak. And I knew right off the bat, I was really good at email marketing. I always had people asking me. I was kind of doing it on the side for free, but it really took me probably about 2 years to be like, yes, okay, I'm putting this thing on the market. So I wish I would have done it sooner. I would have been helping a lot more people by now, because you can only help so many people for free, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What will be the number one advice that you will give to like that you see people making a mistake in the business that you're in the mail marketing and you will give like number one advice for in email marketing?
Yeah, so with email marketing, a lot of people will tell you to tell stories. If you listen to podcasts like this, usually an email marketer will get up and she'll say, like, just tell more stories. People connect through stories. You have to tell stories. I might get burned on the email marketing stake one day, but I completely disagree with that advice. Yes, there are places for stories. Victoria asked me to tell my story at the beginning of this podcast. Those things are true. But when it comes to your thing, whatever it is you're doing, chances are you are not a storyteller, right? Like we're all kind of naturally storytellers, but when it comes to sitting down and writing a story and having this hook and this segue into, oh, how am I going to write a story that sells some, even $100 product, $1,000, like you know, that is advice coming from a copywriter. That's their job. They have spent years doing that. So I think the number one mistake is just trying to tell stories. Like instead of telling a story, I want you to tell a personal update. And that's just like, hey, you get on the phone. I'm on the phone with Victoria. Hey, girl, what's going on? Oh, nothing. I just recorded this awesome podcast with this girl, Liz Wilcox. She's really cool. She loves the 90s. That's the personal update. And then you can segue into the link to the podcast or whatever, the blog post, the Instagram account, whatever, right? The sales page. And so just that personal update, that 2 to 3 sentences that says, the weather or something interesting you did that week, that makes the connection just as much as that story. But it takes, maybe 30 seconds instead of 3 hours of crying. Does that make sense?
Yes, I love it, and I love that the personal update. I think it's more easy to make than instead of making you writing the whole long email form. All right. So, last question that I have everybody on this podcast is filling the blank for me. It's not a question though. If you really knew me, you will know that I am blank.
If you really knew me, you would know that I refuse to quit. Even when Victoria just asked me about like a mistake, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? Because I never look at anything as a failure. I just refuse to quit. And that's probably like my number one personality trait.
Love it. Always moving forward, feeling forward.
hmm
Awesome. So I know you have an awesome gift for us. It's the swipes, email swipes. Could you tell us more about it and as well where our audience can find you?
Yeah, sure. So if you go to lizwilcox.com, you'll see a big bright pink button in the top right hand corner. It says free email swipes. I want you to go in there. You can get that for free. And swipes are just basically something I've already written that you can take and make your own. And so you're going to get an entire welcome sequence. You're going to see how I write a welcome sequence. You're going to get 3 newsletters. So you know how I said, don't tell stories. You're going to see what I do instead. You're going to see that personal update in action. And then if that's not enough for you, I'm going to give you 52 subject lines. So you never have to think about what you're going to write again. You've got those 52 prompts, and all those subject lines are proven to, for me, to have over a 40% open rate. And that's all for free. You can go to lizwilcox.com, see that bright pink button, click that, sign up. I'd love to see you on my email list.
Awesome. And we will place all the links in the show notes. So if you're watching or listening to this episode, just scroll down and you will see everything down below of this episode. Thank you so much, Liz, for coming. And thank you, everybody, for listening or watching. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Thanks, friends.
And if you love this episode and you would love to see more of that, click the subscribe button to Purposeful Woman Podcast. And don't forget to text us to stay in tune with the Purposeful community for awesome tricks by texting to number +1 401 399 4105. And we will link descriptions in the episode to all of that we mentioned today. Bye. Turn your one day to day one with a purposeful day.